Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams, and today's video is going to be all about my favorite brushes. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. If you're into eyeshadow palettes, Estee and Catrice, and getting the use out of your makeup the way that I am, then definitely stay tuned because today we're going to be talking about brushes. And brushes is a category where I just go back to old favorites on a daily basis. Like some of the brushes I'm about to show you are at least a decade old because I know what I like and these are the things I love. Now you can also look forward to me showing you my entire brush collection when I do my next decluttering series in March because I'm definitely due a declutter. I tried some new to me brush brands in 2022, and if you're wondering why a lot of the brushes I'm showing you today look pretty clean, it's because I was able to do this full face makeup look with some new brushes I just got in. But yeah, I'm definitely due a declutter. I have way too many. I have more than what I'm showing you today, and everything that's in this container I can't even show you in today's video. And I'll tell you in a little bit why. And in case you're new here, it may be good to know that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, which greatly skews my makeup preferences. And because I've been buying, trying, and reviewing makeup for more than a decade, I also have some very strong favorites. So if you'd like to join the Snow Angel Club, then definitely just click subscribe down below. So yes, this isn't even everything I have. This is what I keep out on my vanity. This is a brush organizer from Zoeva. I'm not sure if you can read that there. And Zoeva is also one of my favorite brush brands. So you're going to see a lot of Zoeva brushes here today. I also have Real Techniques. Sigma is a big player here. I tried Refer and Spectrum for the first time in 2022, and I did my full face makeup look today with BK Beauty brushes that I just got in. So yeah, I'm just gonna show you what I've been loving. Now the brushes I use on the day-to-day basis are the ones that are in this cubby right here. So you can see there's a divider here. So this side here, and there's actually two dividers, another divider here. So these eyeshadow brushes aren't just in one component, but the eyeshadow brushes that I keep in the front. Those are like my go-to everyday brushes that I use for different things depending on what I want to do. And all the other things are extras. So I'm not going to go over the extras. You're just going to have to stay tuned for that brush declutter that I already announced in the intro because I'm definitely due a declutter and I definitely don't use all of these or some of the brushes that I've moved out of this over the past year and a half and that I've put into storage. So I just need to go over and see what I actually like. I don't like having a bajillion brushes out on my vanity because it overwhelms me too much. And I tend to use like the same 5 brushes every single day. So that's what I want to go over with you right now. So let me start off with the face brushes. And this is them. These are all of the face brushes. So let me get organized so I can go over this with you in categories. So before we get to the brushes, I need to talk about my sponges. So I don't really use sponges anymore ever since I think like summer 2022, I really went back to brushes again for also applying my foundation, my concealer, and the AOA Paw Hourglass shaped brush sponges are my favorites though. So if you're looking for a very good makeup sponge, these retail for like $1.50 a piece. I have a bunch of these in backup. This is a clean one that I haven't used before. I've thrown away my other ones because I'm just using brushes right now. But yeah, if you're into sponges more so than into brushes for your foundation, then this sponge is definitely a good one to look out for. So again, it's the AOA Paw Hourglass shaped brush. So they have a bit of a fuzzy feel. It's not like a standard sponge. So most of the brushes in my cubby are for bronzer, blush, and highlight, but I have 3 brushes that I reach for every single day that I use to do my base with. So my foundation brush of choice is this, and this is the Zoeva 104 Buffer Brush. Now mine has a burgundy handle because it came in a special collection, but they still do this. I looked it up on the website. And this is a flat top kabuki brush, which they are a little bit difficult to clean, I'm not gonna lie, and this is still a little bit damp from washing it yesterday. But yeah, this is great for blending in and buffing in your foundation for sure. For concealer, I use this guy, and this is a Real Techniques brush. This is their setting brush. This is used to apply like under eye setting powder. That's what this is actually for, like loose powder. But I use this to blend out concealer. It's really great at like fluffing things around and makes for a very lightweight application, which is why I like it. I find most concealer brushes to be far too dense for my dry skin and I get far too much coverage. I need a very thin layer, and this is really great at buffing it out. And finally, my powder brush. The name has rubbed off, but I know what this is. This is a Sigma brush. This is the F25, and I use this to apply powder to my T-zone and my under eyes. And because of that tip, it's really great at getting really in there, and then I leave the rest of my face without powder because I have pretty dry skin, and my dryness is especially on my cheeks, so that's why I don't tend to powder that at all. Another step that I use brushes for is bronzer, and I have a powder bronzer brush and a cream powder brush for you. My powder bronzer brush of choice is, again, not something you may think of as a bronzer brush, but this is the Crown C406 Large Duo Face, and I love this for like getting really in there. I've got quite a high forehead, so I love to go about it with that. And I used to have the Sigma version of this, but mine fell apart. I think the glue inside the barrel got wet, and I was losing brush hairs by the minute. So this was a replacement brush that I got that works just as well, and this has been keeping up for, well, at least 5 years, because I bought this when I was still in my old place, and I've been at least here for 5 years, so this has been around for a while. And then this is quite a new addition. This is the Spectrum B001, and this is so great for applying a cream bronzer. If you, for instance, have a cream bronzer stick and you warm it up on the back of your hand, and then this picking it up, and then you can really like dab it around. It's, again, a flat top kabuki brush. It's not like dense enough for me to love it with foundation, so that's why I still love the Zoeva one. That's also a bit bigger. Like, let me show you. Like, you just see that the Zoeva covers a bit more ground than this one, but this allows you to be a little bit more targeted, and I find it works really well here and around here. So the Spectrum brushes, I didn't love all of them, but because they have synthetic hairs, they are great with cream products, I have found. So the Spectrum brushes, and this one in particular, is like my favorite brush I found when I tried this Malachite set. For blush, I actually have most in here. My day-to-day blush brush that I use every day, the Real Techniques blush brush. I think it now comes in a brighter pink handle. I mean, mine is so well loved. I mean, this came in the original set when these first launched way back in like 2013. Like, this is a 10-year-old brush. Love it. Again, I've got quite a big like cheek area here, so this makes light work of applying anything to my cheeks, and I find that this is dense enough to pick up any brush, but it's also fluffy enough to sheer it out and to not get too much of an intense application. And because of that, like, very nice domed shape, and because of that very nice domed shape, I love how it can just like, I can dab the tip in there and then like use this side for blending. So this is such a good versatile brush. And then I have some extra brushes in here, and I look at these and I'm like, do I need to keep all of these in here? My favorite brush for very intense blushes. So if a blush is overly pigmented, I use this. This is a dupe for a NARS brush, but this is by Quo, which is a brand from Canada, and this was sent to me in a swap, again, years ago. I don't use this a lot because I just feel like if I just dip my Real Techniques brush in once, I usually get the application as well, but this is great for super pigmented blushes. Another Zoeva brush, this is a really nice one, but I haven't used it in a while, but I remember loving this mainly for like cream, like for blending out a cream blush. This is the Petite Face Finish 111. I don't know if they still do it. Again, mine has a navy blue handle because it was part of a set that I got. So Zoeva used to do these sets with like brushes and some lip products or like a cheek palette and an eyeshadow palette and a makeup pouch. And I got 2 of those for certain Christmases, and the brushes in those sets were lovely, and I really like this shape. But yeah, it's a great, like, you know, cream cheek kind of thing. And then for a more, like, if I have a very shiny blush, I sometimes love using these angle brushes, and this is by Refer. So this is one of the newer brushes that I tried in 2022. This is the 04. This was part of one of their sets. I got 2 of their sets and 2 singular brushes. And some of the brushes I found a little bit too big from Refer. Like, they were a bit too big for my shape. Like, I have their powder brush. Like, this is their powder brush. Like, where's that supposed to go? Like, it's too big and fluffy for bronzer right here. It would only work on my forehead, so it was a bit too big for my features. But this worked really well. And then I also have their number 24 brush that I think was part of another set I got. And this is, again, really nice for a blush. This is a good blush brush. But I find this one a little bit too dense. Like my Real Techniques one is a bit like lighter weight on the edges. And this is very dense. So again, this is why I'm like, do I need both of these in here? Because I feel that they're a little bit similar in what they can do. This is, again, great for cream blush, but these are natural haired brushes. So I think that these Refer ones are better with powders. And then I have two highlighter brushes in here. My favorite highlighter brush is the F03 from Sigma. This makes for really nice targeted application. And if you have more shimmery formulas, this works better, I find, than something this big. This is by Refer. This is their number 19 brush. But this is, again, also great for like concealer or like under eye powder. But it's also great for a highlighter. Refer does some really good brushes that can do like multiple things, if that's what you're looking for. So those were my favorite face brushes. Now we need to get on to the eyes, and there's a lot here and there's a lot here that you can no longer buy. So we're kicking things off for the eyes with my 10 favorite eye brushes. These are the 10 brushes that I use on a day-to-day basis. Whenever you see me do an eye look, I use this. And I just have some other categories of like very detailed things or brushes that do very specific things, and blending brushes that I have like spares or extras for. And then these are just the ones that I use on a day-to-day basis. So let me just get started where I normally start when I do an eye look, which is with the crease. And my favorite crease brush is a MAC 217. This is what it looks like. It's like a very small brush, and I love this. There are so many brands who've tried to dupe this. Now apparently this brush, I still have one of the goat-haired ones. This used to be made by a Japanese brand. Some people have been leaving me in the comments down below that Hakuhodo still makes this brush. And people gave me the number, so I'll pop it in the description box down below if I can find that. So you can still buy this, but from another brand. So it's no longer by MAC, because MAC switched to all synthetic hairs a couple of years ago. But yeah, the MAC 217 Holy Grail crease brush. I don't care how many brands come out with dupes for this. This is the only one that works. I've tried the Sigma E25. I have one of those somewhere here in my extra brushes, and for an emergency situation, it definitely works. But I love how this can really get in there for me, and it's just not too big. My issue with a lot of eye brushes is that they're far too big for my features. I've got pretty small eye features, so I need things that can fit. Then next up, I will usually apply something all over the lid, and for that I use the Sigma E55. I have two of these. Actually, you'll see my old one in a minute. I'll keep this one around so that I can show you the old one compared to the new one. And that brush is just my favorite, like, flat shader brush. It's dense enough for packing shadow onto the lid, but you can also like really like use it and blend it at the same time. But it's quite a dense brush, and I love it for that. Then let's do inner corner highlight next. This is the Sigma E30. I had to look this up because the name has rubbed off. And this is great to really get into that corner. And I feel that it really nicely picks up product as well. One of my favorite brushes that I use if I want to do anything that's a little bit more smoked out, I tend to use this for the outer V, and this is the Zoeva 231 Petite Crease. Now the 231 still exists, but they've changed the name. But from what I can tell online, this shape still exists. Mine is a little old though, and I like this to like sort of go ooh, and really sort of get that V out and draw it into the crease, smoke it out, and get this more cat eye shape. This is also great for like fluffing it this way if you want to create that more winged out shape. It's nice and precise. It is a pencil brush, but it's definitely a little fluffier than most pencil brushes, which is what I love because this one blends and applies at the same time. Makes it foolproof every time. Then my brush that I use to set my eyeshadow base with. So in case you don't know, I like using a MAC paint pot in Painterly, and then I like to set that with a thin layer of eyeshadow. I'm currently using MAC Yogurt after using up MAC Vanilla last year, but the brush I'm using with it has been the same for more than a decade. I used to own two of these. The first one fell apart, and this is a Hema blending brush. They no longer do this, but Hema, actually I have found, I had a look at the other day, they do some really good brushes still. So if you're in the Netherlands and you're looking for cheap, affordable brushes, check out Hema, because I still have some of mine that I've had since like the start of my makeup career, and they're still holding up. And this is great for like just fluffing something all over the lid and setting that eyeshadow base with. So this is lovely, but they no longer sell it. Then another blending brush. So if I'm doing something that's a bit more smoky, or if I'm using a shade that's a bit deeper in the crease, I like to blend it out with a lighter shade and this brush. This is the Zoeva 224 Luxe Define Crease Brush. Now this is like a very small blending brush. Like if you, let me show you again, like a bigger blending brush. Like this is the one from Spectrum with a similar shape. Do you just see that the Zoeva one is far smaller? It's just covering less ground. And this is great for that circular motion along the outer edge of your crease. That's what this is great for. But I believe they discontinued it. The 224 number is no longer on the website. So they do seem to do something that's similar to this though. I'm sure you can find something that's similar, but this is one of my favorite blending brushes. And then another blending brush from Zoeva that I love, this is the 228 Luxe Crease. And this is of course the one that they say you should use here, but this is far too big and fluffy for me. Like if I hold it up to the MAC 217, do you just see that it's a completely different shape? I don't love these rounded shapes to get into my crease because I feel I don't have as much control, and the brush hairs are too long. What do I use it for? Smoking out the lower lash line. So again, if I'm doing a more smoky look and I want to use a lighter shade to blend out that lower lash line, I go here, I take it around there, and this is the brush I use to finish off any eye look. So I don't use this often because it's only for like darker looks that I do, like if I'm using something this natural like I'm wearing today, I don't need this. But if I'm doing something more smoky, this is a lifesaver. And I think they still do that, so that's a good one. And then for the lower lash line, I have two brushes here. And I've actually found that I now may have a replacement for this because one of my BK Beauty brushes that I used on the lower lash line today seems very promising. And I have been looking for the right kind of replacement for this because this is my oldest brush in my entire collection. I bought this from Sephora back when we still had Sephora. Yes, at some point in time, the Netherlands had Sephora. Then they disappeared. And they were only here for like 2 years. So I think it was like 2012 and 2013. So this is at least 10 years old. And it's the Sephora Smudge Brush. That's what this is called. I think, or smudger brush, something like that. And I love this for like my outer edge on my lower lash line. It's small enough, it's very dense. Like this barely moves. And what moves is only like the top of it. And every single like lower lash line smudger brush I've tried from other brands isn't dense enough. Like it's just got too much give and it goes everywhere. And what happens then is because my skin here isn't very taut anymore. I'm in my late 30s. This is a little like, I've got deep set eyes, so I don't need anything that's too fluffy over here. So this has like this really nice like tapered edge, like it really goes down like that. And then I can really use that edge to get along that lower lash line, and it works wonders every time. Use it every day. If I want to blend the crease or the lower lash line out a little bit, or if I want to apply shimmers to the lower lash line, I really enjoy my E20 from Sigma. I actually have two of these. I also have a black one, but this one I love the most, this brown one. And I just love for that like inner corner part over here. That's what I use it for mostly. And then my final everyday brush is another Hema brush, which I don't think they still do. They do still do an angle brush, but it seemed to be different to this. And I actually used to have another one of this, but I found other angle brushes that I like for the purpose that I was using that for. So I used to own one of these in a black for my brows with brow powder, and this pink one that I used for eyeliner. And this brush, picking this up, this angle brush, using it to apply eyeshadow as eyeliner is a game changer. It's very, very thin. I love it. And it really just makes light work of applying eyeliner along the top lash line if you just want to use eyeshadow. I have other brushes to use as like, you know, gel liner or with liquid liners or those kind of things, but those are not brushes I reach for very often because I don't do that very often anymore. But I do have those brushes, but they're in parts of the collection you will see in the future. And then I just have 8 brushes here that I use for very specific things. So these are all brushes that achieve very particular looks. And that's why I have these around. I only use these, for instance, if I do halo eyes or cut creases or anything. So let's start with the cut crease. This is the Zoeva 233 Cream Shader. This is the perfect shape to draw out a cut crease. It's made to be used with creams. It's a synthetic haired brush, so it's great for picking up concealer and stamping it on and really drawing that line. It's got a fine enough edge to really get in there. So the 233 from Zoeva is definitely one that I cannot live without. When I do want to, if I want to do a cut crease or I want to cut out a halo or like apply concealer over an eye look, this is the brush I use. Now I have a similar shape to that brush, but it's smaller, and this is by Sonia Kashuk. I bought this from Target years ago. I don't believe they still do this. This is the 106, and this is what I use if I want to do a halo eye, because this is small enough for me to get into that outer and inner corner, and then I use another brush that I have in my hands here to fill out the middle part of my eye. So yeah, this is my favorite brush. Also, if I really want to pack on shadow, this is lovely too. Speaking of halo eyes, let's just go into that. The firm shader, the E57 from Sigma, is what I use on the middle of the lid after using the Sonia Kashuk one if I do a halo eye. This is smaller than the E55. And it's also a bit denser, so it's better at picking up really intense shimmer shades. So this is the E55, and this is the E57. Do you see that the E57 is just a lot smaller? That's why I love it. Speaking of the E55 then, because I promised you I would show you, this is the one I'm using on a day-to-day basis right now, and this is the one I used to use. I'm not sure, from that distance you can't really tell, but you can just see that this has gone a little bit crooked, and I still use this though. This is now used to apply wet shadow. So if I want to use a wet brush to apply my shadow, I use my old E55. I don't mind if this gets ruined, and then I just have a clean one for powder shadow. Now, I'm not much of a brow bone highlighter girl anymore, but if I want to do a brow bone highlight, I use my other Sonia Kashuk brush. This is the 203, and this is great for getting in there. It's quite a big brush, but it works really well for that, because like that smudger brush from Zoeva, from Sephora, it has this like pretty flat edge, so you can really like dip it in and get into that brow bone area. Now, something you've been seeing me doing in certain looks is that I like to apply highlighter in this like hollow that I have here, and this is the brush I use for that. This is the Spectrum A12, and I really like getting in there and sort of extending my inner corner all the way to the top part of my crease where some eyeshadow will be then as well. And this is great for it. It's really small and it really nicely fits into that corner right there, and that's why I love it. I have a spoolie in here. I used to have one from Hema, but this is from a little brush set that I got from Essence. This was part of their Jurassic World collection over the summertime. And this is great for like brushing through your brows if things have gotten to look a little weird or anything. This is much smaller than the one I used to have, and I like that little angle that it has. So this is one that I popped into my regular everyday makeup collection. Again, not something I do all the time, but a good brush. And then I have this little Refer brush, and this has been a game changer to my makeup routine. This is the number 13 brush from Refer, and this has been the brush that I like to use to really smoke out this outer edge that you've also seen me doing in some recent looks. So this is a very flat brush. It's sort of like a mini version of like this flat blender that I have from Spectrum. So again, just compare how small this is compared to the, and it's also like if you compare it like this, it's very short haired, which is why it works. And this I have loved to create it, like this feels very counterintuitive because your eye curves, but I like going up in a straight line and then using shadow with this along the outer edge. And this is again great for doing like circular motions as well. So the Refer 13 brush has been a game changer. This is the best. If you get just one Refer brush ever in your life, make it this one. And it's really small. It's also one of their brushes that's specifically made for hooded eyes, which is probably why I love it. And then another Refer brush that I love is the 26 brush. This is like a very dense version. Oh, I can't find this brush if it's clean. It's the Zoeva 231. Where did it go? Where did you go, baby? Ah, here we go. So this I feel is like a shorter, denser version of my Zoeva brush. Do you just see that? They're very similar in shape, but this is just a hair thicker. And so what I like it for the same purpose as the Zoeva, but since that's slimmer, it fits a bit better. But this is so great for smoking out anything. Like you want to smoke out your lash line? This brush. You want to smoke out the lower lash line? This brush. So again, very particular uses. If I'm doing a smoky eye, this is a brush I definitely pull in. And then I have 5 blending brushes here. So these are all blending brushes that do something differently for me and that I don't use on the daily. So I have my Real Techniques base shader brush, or base shadow brush I should say. And this is a brush you've seen me use a lot this month if you've been following my short series with all of my one and done eyeshadows, because this is my favorite one and done shadow brush. This applies and blends at the same time. It's not great for packing things onto the lid though. So if you want to intensify shimmer, I still use the E55 for that. But this is great if you just want to like go like do-do-do-do, like do-do-do, and you're done. This eyeshadow brush is like the brush for one and done shadow. That's what I use it for, very particular, but it blends more so than it applies, I find. Then I have the #1 brush from Refer, and this is a great blender brush, but for me it's a little bit too big to really fit into my crease. I was hoping that this could be my replacement for the MAC 217, but if I grab my 217 here, you can just see that the Refer one is so much bigger and rounder, and it's not as flat, which is what I love about the MAC one. But yeah, this is really good for like really blending things out. Again, if you're doing something a bit more smoky, that is a really good brush, but it's a bit big for my liking. And I feel similarly about the Spectrum brush. This is a good brush. This is the B06. It's that Zoeva brush I've already compared to, but like bigger. Again, great for blending things out. But for my complexion, just a little bit too big sometimes. But I have found uses for this, especially if I'm using cream shadow. But my favorite blending brush for cream shadow is the Sigma E44 Firm Blender. This is a little bit like, again, it's just smaller. And it's very dense, like it's quite like this has so much give. And this is a little bit more like on the stiff side of things, which is why it works really well with creams. Because for instance, a Super Shock, if you find it difficult to blend, this can really get in there. And if you just use round circular motions, and also if you really want to like apply like a cream base before using other shadow on top, this is lovely. This is my favorite brush for that. And then last but not least, I have the What's Up Beauty R102. And this is such a small little brush. It gets really nicely in there, but it's a little bit too fluffy for it to really be a crease shade for me. But this has been great if I want to apply 2 crease shades. So sometimes what I'll do is that I apply a crease shade that I then use as a blending shade, but then I want to deepen up the crease, and then this really nicely gets in there and really gets the job done. So that's again a very particular thing I sometimes like to do. And then the last section here are detail brushes. So again, one of the Sigma E20 brushes that is the short shader brush that I use for the lower lash line, but this is also great for like smoking out liner and things like that. It's a really nice smudger brush. So I have 2 of those, one for the lower lash line and one for other uses. Then I have the Refer 14 brush. This is their other hooded eyes brush. And this I just found a little bit too flimsy for my liking to really get it into the crease. But this has been so, so, so good. If you're doing that winged out shape and you just want to give it that extra flick, it's so small that it will actually do that really nicely. And for my hooded eyes, it was lovely. And then I have these are all like identical almost. I have the Zoeva 238 Looks Precise shader. If you want to do that like pop of something in the like as a halo eye, or if you just want to like apply a little bit of glitter here, this is a lovely brush. And that's sort of how I use these as well. This is the 237 Detail Shader from Zoeva. And then I have the Real Techniques Accent Brush. And these work really well. Also, for instance, if you want to do a little bit of like highlighter here, or if you want to do it like in between your, like on the bridge of your nose, these are like really nice, or like a little bit of like shimmer right here. These are lovely things for like those very precise placements. And that's what I love those for. So those are all of the brushes that I wanted to feature in today's video. It's quite a bit, and that's not even everything. I think I've shown you about half of what I have even in here, and then I have more brushes in storage. So I'm definitely due a declutter. I know, but yeah, I find brushes just very difficult to get rid of because there are sometimes brushes that I don't use for years, and then I start changing up my makeup routine and then I want to go back to them. So brushes I don't tend to get rid of very easily because I'm now really happy that, for instance, I hung on to this Zoeva 104 buffer brush now that I'm using my brushes with foundation again. So there's that. So yeah, thank you so very much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video, getting an overview of some of the brushes that I personally love to use. So I hope you'd like to thumbs up the video, subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me, and there is a link in the description box where you can shop some of my favorite brushes, because on my Shop My Shelf, I have created a shelf with all of my favorite brushes as well. So if you'd like to purchase some of these, then definitely have a gander down below. So thank you so very much for joining me, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!